You are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxshall, in which I chronicle my life and attempts to become a professional writer by, doing some writing daily, hopefully. Hello, today is Thursday the 5th of December 2024, and you are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. As I suspected yesterday, I didn't get any writing done. I was on standby at work and I wasn't used, so I did a little bit of work on reading Tani's 7th Bow Street Society book. Standby can be quite boring, particularly ones late in the evening. I was basically there 7 p.m. till midnight, and I mean, it's fine to get paid for it. I'm not complaining or anything, but there's very few people there. I was very lucky, actually. A good friend of mine, who I never name people unless they are a fellow writer, but a good friend of mine who I've flown with. I think I've only flown with her once, but we've met up a few times socially now. She was on standby. She actually started earlier than I did, but finished at the same time. And neither of us got used, so we sort of kept each other company. And weirdly, we're both on home standby today, but she lives nowhere near me. But she got used for a flight and I didn't. So in fact, I've done 2 shifts, as it were, and not actually flown. So it's a shame, because I kind of don't like getting stuck into anything, whether it's writing, whether it's editing, whether it's whatever it is, because I could literally get a phone call at any time during an 8-hour window that says, right, you've got to be at the airport in 2.5 hours, you're on this flight. So yesterday was the 4th, today is the 5th, and I haven't been used for either of them. Tomorrow I'm on what's called available, which means basically I don't find out necessarily what I'm doing tomorrow until the end of the shift today. And unless, had they used me for like an America trip, it would have filled up the rest of my available days. But I was on standby today, haven't been used, and they've now notified me I'm on standby tomorrow, 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. So, well, just have to see what happens. I mean, it's something to do. I'd rather be flying, but never mind, it's fine. So yes, haven't really done an awful lot of work. But one thing I have done is record some extra podcasts. Now, they're not emergency podcasts or anything like that. What I've basically decided to do, I'm one of these geeky people who, at the end of the year, when the news will do reviews of the year, I get terribly excited and feel like I should watch them. And they'll do, a year in politics, the year in America, the year in Europe, the year in music, the year in film. And I thought, I could do something like that. And it all started, I don't know if you're aware, but Spotify Wrapped was released, has been coming out over the last day or so. So that's where they give you a list of who your top artists are, what your top song is, what you've listened to the most, how much you've listened to across the year, all that kind of stuff. And what they've done is I presume they've done it for everybody. Maybe it's just for people who subscribe, I don't know. But they've done, certainly for me, they've done a 5-minute little podcast where 2, AI computer-generated voices are talking about my music timeline and my taste in music. And yeah, it's interesting. It's wrong, because they make assumptions like, because I listened to a certain track 48 times, it must be my favourite track of the year. No, I listen to the top 40 every week, and it was in the top 40 for 48 weeks. And what I did as soon as I'd done that was I made an audio copy of that podcast and then recorded my kind of response and discussion to it. And thought, I could use this as an extra podcast. So there it was, my year in music. I'd already recorded it. And that made me think, what else could I do? Well, I'm not going to sit here discussing the news and discussing politics and the weather and all that kind of stuff. But I did think, well, I could do a year in books, because I've read nearly 50 books this year. It probably will be, by the end of the year, 50 plus, 52, 53. So I thought, well, I could do a little extra podcast on what I've read this year. So, hey presto, not only have I recorded a year in music podcast, I've also recorded a year in books podcast. These are all slightly longer than the regular 6 minutes a day. I'll tell you what I'm going to do with them in a minute. And then the last thing I've just recorded today was, I thought it might be quite nice. I've written a few short stories for my website, which are from my 60/40 fan fiction collection. So the crossover stories of Doctor Who and The Bill. And I consulted Tanya about which she thought was the best one. And she basically said the same one that I did, which is a story called Dead Presumed Missing, which is set immediately after the third series of The Bill and during the 2005 series of Doctor Who. And I'm really proud of it. So I've also recorded that as a little audiobook. It's only about 19 minutes long for the short story. And I've done a little intro before and after it. So I've recorded that as well. And I'm going to record one more. I am going to wait till a little bit closer to the end of the year, but I am going to do a year in writing where I talk about what I've achieved this year, which is more than it would have been without the podcast, but certainly I was more productive in episodes 1 to 100 than I have been on episodes 100 plus. But it's all stuff I can talk about. So yes, we've got 4 little extra shows. They're all a little bit longer. They're all the 20-ish minute mark, maybe slightly more, maybe slightly less. So you've got the year in music, year in writing, and year in reading, or year in books, sorry. And then you've got my short story as well. And what I'm going to do, at the moment, I am on track to make episode 200 the last regular podcast of the year. If I do it every day, that should come out on the 23rd. And then my plan is basically to have a little break from doing this for just over a week and come back in early January, maybe even on New Year's Day, who knows. But in the meantime, I have recorded 4 little podcasts that I will put out between Christmas and New Year. I will tell you what the dates of them are going to be before, probably on the last show, on show 200 on the 23rd. But yes, I have done those and I've quite enjoyed doing them. So yeah, so 3 of them are already recorded, and the 4th one I will record a little bit closer to the 23rd. Anyway, tomorrow I am doing Standby again. Probably won't do much writing, but who knows, maybe I will. So I don't like the idea of being in the middle of a scene and then getting a phone call and being torn away from it. But then if I don't get used tomorrow, I finish a lot earlier, so I could do a session in the evening. And if I do get used, oh, who knows? Who knows what will happen? It's in the lap of the gods. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I will be back at a similar time tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye. You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxall. Thank you for tuning in to my random ramblings, and if you'd like to know more about me or my projects, visit my Linktree at linktr.ee/Richard Wright, capital R, capital W. Thank you for listening.